Hi y'all and ahlan wa sahlan to my channel Piece of Egypt, where I cook authentic Egyptian food in honor of my mom. And today's recipe is stuffed chicken with bulgur or freek, and it's a classic recipe and well known all over Egypt. Let me tell you, once you try this recipe, you're going to be addicted to it and it's going to be a staple in your house. To start our recipe, all we will need is a medium-sized chicken, like 3 to 4 pounds, and we'll rinse it really well and soak it in a pot with warm water, salt, and lemon or lime. We will soak it for about 1 to 2 hours, and while this is soaking, we'll go ahead and prepare our stuffing, which is simply just bulgur or freek. You need to buy the whole grain freek or bulgur, not the one that ground. It's mostly like rice. And you will look for rocks or debris, rinse really well, drain, and then we will add it to a pot with 1 tablespoon of ghee or butter or oil, but here I use ghee to keep the original recipe as my mom used to make it. And to that we will add salt, red pepper, and black pepper. And the black pepper in this recipe is a must. That's what gives it the good taste to the freek. It is simple yet so delicious. Then we will fry the mixture for about 5 minutes on the stove until all the water evaporates. And then take it off of the heat and let it cool for about 10 to 15 minutes. And while it is cooling, we will go ahead and drain our bird and pat it dry. Back in the days, my mom used to send me to the butcher, and I will tell them that the chicken is for stuffing, so they will butcher it in a way that leaves small holes on the bird. So when you stuff it and boil it, the stuffing won't come out. But this is not the case anymore. We just buy our chicken just from the store, Walmart, Kroger, or whatever. And for that recipe, I will do one adjustment to help with the stuffing. So here, as you see, I will just tie the neck really well, stuff the whole bird from the bottom, then tie the legs together first, and then tie the 2 legs to the bottom of the bird. And you will tie it as tight as you can here, so when you boil it, again, the stuffing won't come out. But this is not the case anymore. My mom used to boil the whole bird, submerge it under the water, and in this case, we can't do this here because I will be worried the stuffing will come out. So we will boil it in less water. We will add water to cover half of the bird, boil it on the back for 20 minutes, then flip the bird carefully and boil it for another 20 minutes. We're adding the chicken here to a boiling water, not cold water. Egyptians always add the meat, beef or chicken, to a boiling water. When they do that, they do not add it to a cold water as I see in some videos people do. And to this broth, we will add fresh tomatoes, onions, salt, black pepper, and red pepper. And we will let it simmer. You don't want the water to be boiling hard, just simmering, so the stuffing will stay inside the chicken. After about 40 minutes of boiling, we will scoop the bird out and let it drain and cool a bit. And while it is cooling, we will go ahead and do the mixture, which is fresh tomatoes. I use here frozen tomatoes because that's what I had on hand, and onions and green pepper, salt, black pepper, and red pepper. We will mix everything together, and to that we will add 1 tablespoon of ghee. You can of course use butter or oil, but again I'm using the same exact recipe as my mom used to make. If you live in a country like me, you can't find fresh tomatoes all year round, or they don't taste great. So I will highly recommend that when you find good tomatoes, you put some in the freezer and use them as you would with fresh tomatoes. Except, of course, that you cannot just snack on them as you do with fresh tomatoes. But for any recipe that calls for fresh tomatoes, which our Egyptian cuisine is all made with fresh tomatoes and produce, then I highly recommend that you freeze some on hand and use them as you would with your fresh tomatoes for any other recipe coming up. We will add all this mixture on top of the chicken, and then into preheated oven we will add this chicken, and make sure you tuck those wings under because they get burned quickly. We will bake it for about 1 hour. You can add, of course, more time or less time, but mine baked for about 1 hour. And here, as you see, not one single grain of bulgur was in my broth because the way we boiled it. Now we'll just drain everything, and we have a wonderful tasty broth that we can cook ملوخية or any other طبيخ with. Now, whatever you have left from your freek or bulgur, you're gonna cook it on the stove, and you will adjust barely enough. You don't need to cover the freek here because it's not like rice. It doesn't require a lot of water to be cooked perfectly. Just as you saw here, you will cover it, bring it to a boil, and simmer for about 15 minutes, and it will be done. Don't know about you, but me, I was so pleased with how this chicken turned out. The freek was cooked perfectly, the chicken was juicy, just perfect. If you try this recipe and you like it, don't forget to smash this like button and subscribe and share my videos. Here is a closer look to the chicken, and I will let you watch this part in silence to enjoy and know how well it turned out. Now you can walk and cook like an Egyptian. Go and have some fun, and see you in another video. Salam.